All right, welcome back to another Wednesday live training where every Wednesday I go live talking about such topics like mindset, wealth, health, spirit, all the things that make up the foundations of what an elite man, father, husband can do to help build an unshakable marriage and deeper connection with their kids. And we've been talking a lot about discipline. This is a six-part series. This is part 5 of that series. And today we're going to talk about willpower. And I think there's a big misnomer when it comes to willpower. And that's because we don't understand it. We're making a lot of mistakes in our fatherhood, in our marriage, as well as just our life and our ultimate success, which is what we want. When you're more successful in your health, when you're more successful in your relationships, when you're more successful in your career, your wealth, everything else just becomes easier. So if you can understand these principles, these tactics, these strategies, you're going to be a better person everywhere because there's no such thing as work-life balance. We've talked about that. It's all one thing. Now, a quick recap of what we've already covered. The first part of the series, we talked about work-life balance is a lie, right? And instead, you need to go into the extremes and use this phenomenon known as counterbalancing to help create more work-life balance. The second thing we talked about was going really small. Like get very fine-tuned with your goals. And this is also known as the Pareto principle, but we go extreme Pareto. And so that was the second part. Then we talked about how multitasking is really a lie and distracting us from getting to where we want to go to, and how you can shift from a multitasking to really focusing on, I guess we would say, the most important thing. And when you focus on that one thing instead of trying to do everything, things will unlock for you. What we saw with multitasking too is not only is it a complete lie, but people actually are less productive. And they feel like they're more productive, but when you look at what they're actually getting done, it's very little. So it's a complete lie. Last week, we talked about discipline and what it means to be a selective discipline person, not always full-time in discipline. And this week, like I said, we're going to talk about willpower. So let's jump into things. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Joel Evan. I'm a best-selling author. I'm a coach. I'm a father. I'm a husband. My marriage was a complete wreck for 10 years before I learned some of the principles and the tactics and the strategies that I'm going to teach with you guys today. And really what it comes down to is fatherhood is a skill, marriage is a skill, and most of us weren't given the skills to lead our family. And so here we are finding ourselves in lack, in uncertainty, in scarcity, in divorce, in separation, in infidelity. And I believe truly that when you understand that your relationship is not a source of conflict, but the cure to what will heal both of you, your wife and you, man, you'll be unstoppable. And I'm on a mission to prove that. Also, for most of you know this, but I was a first responder for 15 years. So I have a very high affinity for that community, and just a lot of love goes out to them because they live very stressful and negative lives. And so if I can impact you guys in any way, please reach out. I have a ton of free guides and resources. Just simply drop me a line today below, comment guide, and I'll send you some of my free stuff. And really, a lot of that free stuff is stuff that took me 10 years to learn and to figure out. So it's not a free guide with nothing in it. There's really some good stuff. So if you want that, just let me know. Happy to send it to you. Now let's jump in to today's topic on willpower. Now here's the thing. Here's a good question for you guys. Why would you ever do something the hard way? It doesn't make sense, right? Why would you do anything the hard way? Yet most people do it unconsciously every single day. And when we tie success to our willpower without understanding what that really means, we naturally set ourselves up for failure. The idea that where there's a will, there's a way has probably misled many more people than it's actually helped. For will to work the way it's supposed to, we're missing one other element, and that's timing. The ability to control oneself, to determine one's action is powerful when it comes in a training setting, and we call this discipline. But just to do it over and over again, and just simply call on that power, that raw power, that is the power of will. So invoke your will and success is yours, right? The problem is, I don't always have willpower. Do you? It runs out. I don't always have it. Willpower comes and goes. So then you ask yourself, like, what's wrong with me? Was I a loser? Do I have no grit, no strength, no character, no inner fortitude? There's been many research studies showing this phenomenon. So if you want to learn more about willpower, a study was conducted tormenting 4-year-old kids at Stanford University. Walter Mischel gathered 500 children, and he filmed these kids squirming while millions of other people laughed at them. This devilish experiment is called the marshmallow test. Kids were offered one of 3 treats: a pretzel, a cookie, or a marshmallow. And the child was told that the researcher had to step away, and if he could wait 15 minutes until the researcher returned, then he'd be awarded a second treat. One treat now, 2 treats later. The average kid could only hold out for about 3 minutes. Only 3 out of 10 actually managed to delay their gratification until the researcher returned. So what we found out is willpower is in short supply. Michelle later followed up with the kids and the delayed gratification kids as well as the low delayers. And what he found was that the high delayers were more successful in their life than the low delayers. In fact, 30% of the low delayers were more likely to be overweight and suffered from drug addictions. So think of willpower as this power bar in your cell phone. It has a limited battery life, but it can be recharged with some downtime. Another study asked students to memorize a 2-digit number, and another group had to memorize a 7-digit number. Now, participants were offered a snack while conducting the exercise, a chocolate cake or a bowl of fruit salad. The group that had to memorize the 7-digit number were nearly twice as likely to choose cake. The extra cognitive load was just enough to prevent them from making a prudent choice. So the big takeaway is the more we use our mind, the less minding power we actually have. And when it comes to willpower, we need to be mindful of our default judgments. Researchers in Israel proved this. They analyzed 1,112 parole board hearings assigned to 8 judges over a 10-month period. This pace is grueling, guys. And the judges, what they do is they hear arguments and they only get about 6 minutes to render a decision. And they have about 14 to 35 parolee requests a day. And they only get 2 breaks. In the mornings, what they found is parolees' chances of being released peaked at 65% and then plunged to a near 0 by the end of each period. And so what the researchers concluded that likely happened is the mental toll of repetitive decision-making was changing the outcome of the decisions and the parolees. So if you're going up for parole, much better to go up in the morning than in the afternoon. And so as the energy is spent, the judges mentally collapsed into their default choice. And their default decision for a parole judge is no. So when our willpower runs out, we all revert to these default settings. So ask yourself, what are your default settings? If your willpower is dragging, will you grab a bag of carrots or are you going to grab a bag of chips? Will you be focusing on the work at hand or are you down for any distraction that drops in? You got to protect your willpower. And here's how you can do it. You got to make what doing matters most a priority when your willpower is the highest. So every day, without even realizing it, we are engaging in manners and activities that diminish our willpower. Willpower is depleted. So when we make decisions to focus our attention or suppress our feelings and our impulses or modify our behavior in pursuit of our goals, we need to be very aware of that because it's a limited resource and willpower has to be managed. So if you want to get the most out of your day, you need to do your most important task, that one thing that we talked about earlier before your willpower is drawn down. Since your self-control is going to be sapped throughout the day, well, then use your willpower when it's at full strength and when it matters the most. I'm going to leave you with 3 big ideas here, okay? Number 1 is don't spread your willpower too thin, okay? On any given day, you have a limited supply. So decide what matters most and reserve your willpower for it. Number 2, monitor your fuel gauge. Fuel your strength of willpower that requires a full tank. Never let what matters most be compromised simply because your brain is underfueled. Make sure that you're eating right. And number 3, time your task. Do what matters most first each day and when your willpower is at its strongest. Maximum strength willpower means maximum success. So that's it, guys. Don't fight willpower. Build your day around it instead. Build your day around how it works and just let it do its part to build your life. I hope you enjoyed this Wednesday training. Stay tuned for the final part next week, which is going to be the final culmination of our 6-part series on work-life balance, how you can achieve more work-life balance as a husband and a father. If you're interested in building an unshakable marriage and fostering deeper connection with your kids, I'll show you how. Simply shoot me a DM or shoot me a message, comment below, and let me know let's use the word ready, and let's take some action, and I will get you guys started. I've helped not only my own family transform in the last 2 years, but I've helped hundreds of men do the same, and I would love to help you because I truly believe that fathers matter. And that if fathers are not leading their family, imagine the impact of generation and generation to come. There's no accident. There's no reason that you're here for a reason, okay? Your last name signifies that. Families have gone through famines and plagues so that you are here today, and you matter way more than you think, and your last name will carry on for generations to come. Have an amazing week, guys. Thank you. I love you so much. And I'll see you next week.